Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and the rest of YouTube. If you're watching this video, it is already the next day, but tonight's banner has graced us in the form of the Zaku IV from Gundam Moon. But before we begin getting into the nitty-gritty details, let's go over some news for Gundam Battle Operation 2. Well, to kick things off first, we have GBO days returning. So what that means for anybody that's not been playing as much or doesn't know what that means, it's a special campaign for the game that every month during the first Thursday through Sunday, because we're going by Japanese time, basically it's a free campaign for 4 days where you get a free guaranteed mobile suit supply drop, and it can be requested once a day per reset. And you can get up to a total of 4 units. On top of that, we have a special campaign for a supply drop, which is a 10 pull, so no discounts there, but it's guaranteed 1 3-star or above rarity mobile suit. So you'll definitely still get dupes, but if you're got some extra cash lying around, that's pretty cool. And then on top of that, your basic XP, DP, and CP after battle rewards are doubled if you are a new and returning player. So really cool to incentivize gameplay and everything. Aside from our main event tonight, we also have the return of the Bound Dock, as they are now releasing the 700 cost level 2 version, as well as respective weapons. So you can single pull or do a 10 pull on this. I would almost lean towards this if I was playing this a lot more and had a lot more familiarity with it, but I know a lot of you guys, this might be the banner to kind of focus on. Not sure how it'll hold up in 700 with the Unicorn and Banshee units kind of dominating the landscape for that cost range, but you guys can tell me in comments how that's working out. Alright, now aside from the 2 campaigns that are ongoing, we have the Tristan level 3, it's a 700 cost general coming to the recycle ticket counter. It's gonna be available for the next 2 days or so. So if you want to add that and are crazy enough to take it into 700, like I mentioned about the whole Banshee and Unicorn landscape to follow, go for it. On top of that, we are getting some updates for the DP exchange counter. The Rick DS 2, level 1, level 2, basically the raid version of the Rick DS is coming. We also have the level 2 versions of the G04, G05 BST units. Very cool guys that are, I believe, 550. So definitely pick them up if you want to try them and you're a big fan of the Thoroughbred storyline, side story for Gundam. But more importantly, very big announcement. And I'm not sure if anybody follows Twitter, but GBO2 JP had a special commemoration for the Delta Chi release campaign, and basically with the amount of retweets that it got, every player got basically 900k DP, since the retweet count passed 9,000 by looks like October 3rd. So basically 50k DP for every 500 retweets of the tweet for the Delta Chi preview video. So that's really cool. The nice thing about this little campaign, and I like these events because especially if you're a fresh account or you're a newer player and you're not sure what you can buy and you have to rank for it, I know some people recommend parts. I kind of lean towards mobile suits depending on what it is, but parts you can't go wrong because you can use them on everything. So I definitely do agree with that, but choose carefully because once you use it all up, you gotta grind for all that DP again. So definitely choose one. Now on to our main event. We have another entry coming in from Gundam Moon under the form of the Zaku IV, which happens to be a 3-star 600 cost support unit usable on ground and space. This is actually based on the Zaku III from Axis, and it's meant to address a lot of the shortcomings and lackluster performance that the Zaku III may have possessed at the time. Basically, the suit has a weapon for all ranges. It's got its long-range beam rifle, short range, the mid-range submachine guns, little pew pew guns in its head and its little knuckle blades for close combat. Now, on top of this banner, this also includes the Neo Zeon normal suits and helmet. So, if you like to roleplay a little bit more as your favorite Neo Zeon pilot, well, there you go. Head pull, no discounts, but it is there. And then added to the monthly mobile suit bonus, we get the Bound Dog level 2. So if you have the Bound Dog level 2, that's gonna boost your rewards a bit. So, on to the nitty gritty. Alright folks, into the nitty gritty. This is the part where it starts getting maybe a little unprofessional and a little more stuttery just because there's a lot to see. So Zaku IV on paper looks pretty decently good to start off with. The canvas that it has is pretty good. What I mean by that is, yeah, granted, being ballistic, they're kind of on the lower end for something of this cost range, but you have a lot of space in your custom part slots to kind of play around with that. It's pretty easy to get this up to 40, but the thing that kind of surprises me right off the bat as soon as I see this, when they revealed it on Twitter and everything, is the fact that what support unit natively comes with a melee resistance to third. This is pretty crazy. You probably don't even have to touch that, but considering that you'll be chasing down other suits and being chased by, say, some type of raid or raids in general, this thing will help with your survivability. But we'll get into the skills into that a little bit because it gets a little bit nuttier in that sense. Now, of course, this being a support unit, a range support unit at that, you're going to have leanings towards range power. You do have quite a considerable amount of melee strength, and that's also another topic going into our other deal of the fact that skills kind of, I wouldn't say go as far as saying that they're weird, but considering this support is competing with the likes of Delta Gundam and Angelo's Gira Zulu and some of the other more common 600 supports out there, this might be something that is decently good. I don't think it's going to unseat those type of suits anytime soon, or any other main suits that you might be using, but we'll get to that in a second. Movement speed on ground, it's 135, which is kind of crazy for a support unit. Usually the support units are kind of on the slower end, or you'll have something like, again, the Delta Gundam being able to transform and just being able to get in, out, reposition. Pretty nuts. High speed, not so fast, but it's better than moving at the speed of a slug. On top of that, you have a 70 thruster gauge and 66 turning speed, which, for how big this thing is, it's decent. Not horrible, but it's decent. Looking into its long-range beam rifle, we have a power of 2100 with a heat rate of 55 at 500 meters. Now, be mindful that if you do charge this with a 2-second focus, it will overheat and you're going to be sitting for about 15 seconds. So you have to rely on its other weapons, which we'll get into a little bit as well. But it does seem to suggest that maybe you'll just be free firing this. Not sure why they don't allow you to charge this on the go, but it's whatever. The cooldown time between shots is a second. So the nice thing about this is you can fire uncharged, I think up to 3 before you hit overheat. Might be 2, and then third shot will overheat it, but that's pretty... I think that's kind of cool for what we get into in a little bit, because it does chain in with its other weapons as far as stun buildup. But the 2155 for the stats, if it were able to even do a light stagger, I would be happy. But unfortunately, that's not what we get, and I know some people might be scratching their heads and looking at this in a very strange light. Going into its melee, we have its Knuckle Duster at 2000, 3-second cooldown time. So, the crazy thing about the suit, which we'll address now, is that it has a priority 2. Whereas the Delta Gundam only has a priority 1, but it has melee combo. So this is one of those oddball support units that's got more pseudo-general features, but it's not quite a general yet. So this is pretty neat. This is definitely going to catch people like me off guard if they don't know to expect it. So definitely be prepared to clash with this thing up close too, in the right hands. Now, compared to its 700 cousin, or sister, I should say, the head cannons do not fire consecutively. They are its basically stagger element. So for damage, you're looking at a base power of 1000 times 2. Heat rate is 95, so you get on the second shot basically an overheat. It is a 250 meter range shot. So basically, this is your hard stun, your last ditch setup, or element to kind of back off. And then the overheat's 20 with a 7-second cooldown time. So gotta use it sparingly and carefully, because once it's overheating, you're in a weird spot. And now, of course, the dual beam machine guns basically come in at 300 power, 24 shots. It does shoot in a burst fire, so the nice thing that I mentioned earlier with stun buildup is you can neutral fire the long range beam rifle, follow up with this. If all the shots hit, you do have stun buildup. So the weird part is that since it's a long burst, some of those shots more than likely may miss, especially if we're dealing with moving targets. But at the same time, I think on 2 long bursts, you can make that flinch work. But then again, if your team hypothetically is near you too, and you're not overextending or some weird secluded spot trying to snipe, that might actually happen a bit sooner. Going into its shopping list of skills, we got our, I would say, normal things to expect. IA performance radar, you got a scope, obviously. Operational data link, I can't imagine a support without one. Scouting parallel processing device allows you to have radar, which I guess this is starting to become commonplace now. I know some older suits do not have that, and they're sniping units or have a sniping capability. So kind of nice, especially if you want to kind of squeeze out that extra damage being in, under scope, and kind of just neutral firing, being a little more accurate. Definitely some things for space here with the aerospace gimbal, so you're able to tilt a lot farther than other suits. Very, very nice. This one also has balancers too, just like the Delta Gundam, so I almost want to say this might not be a direct competitor, but it has some of the features that kind of make it a alternative. How far that goes into that is anyone's guess, because I don't play enough support units, but I'm starting to get into that a little bit more. We do have AMX level 2, so in space this is going to be pretty nasty for sure, as we have space compatibility again. Force injector level 2 on a support unit. God, well, this might be a little fun. Here's the kicker with the whole deal with melee resistance being pretty substantial, is the fact that if you get hit in the legs, like most raids will try to go for, and just kind of cripple you, you also have the 15% damage reduction on top of that. So effectively, if they try to go for your leg just on base numbers alone, you could potentially be at about 45% plus. If you put any points into melee resistance, it's gonna be a hard time for them to kind of really do their job. They'll still do damage overall, I believe, but man, it's gonna be nutty if they're not making use of their full weapons, and I mean like ranged and melee. You also have anti-stabilizing available, so the nice thing about that is if you're clumped up with your teammates and, well, things happen, this thing will be super crippled. So very, very interesting for that fact. And then more buffers. You have damage reduction on your right shoulder, which is basically, I'm assuming, the shield there, by 30%. And then the back buffer reduces 15% there, which is pretty nutty. This thing, yeah, this is basically a pseudo general, as a kind of polar opposite to the Delta Gundam. So I will more than likely spend time probably learning this at some point, just because I do want to play supports a little bit more. The only hard part that will be difficult for me is the fact that this does have coasting. It's a little scooty suit, not a walking or running deal, which can work both ways. It's going to be harder for me to like stop and aim, but at the same time, because of the skill set that it has as far as the mobile suit properties and the fact that people might be fighting it, it might be a little bit harder for them to kind of lead the target too. So it kind of works out. All right, folks, that'll do it for tonight's banner, which is today, technically. So if you guys enjoyed what you saw, what you learned, what you found out about the new suit, as well as all the other facts that came with tonight, appreciate you guys hitting that like and subscribe button. Helps keeps the light on the channel, keeps things going. And until the next one, I'll see you guys later.